I'll start with this one. This is kind of an ironic one considering what's happening today. But David, what's up, bud? How are you? David says, do you have any tips, advice, or words of wisdom for people who are trying to start a new political show right now? And is YouTube still the best place for new political content creators to start posting their content? All right, that's a fun question. That's a fun question. So let me think. Some advice. Well, first of all, I'll say this. There are a lot of content creators way bigger than me. There's a lot of people out there who have way bigger followings than me, who are way more qualified to give more solid advice than I can offer because they have way bigger followings. But here's what I got. So first of all, be consistent. Be as consistent as you possibly can. That doesn't mean you need to necessarily go live every day or post every day. You certainly can, but be consistent. Try to have a fairly consistent schedule. Here on Get Your News On With Ron, usually Monday through Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, I go live. That's generally the case. Sometimes that schedule alters a bit depending on guest availability, depending on, well, back when the world was open, depending on my road schedule. But generally speaking, Monday through Wednesday, and then throughout the rest of the week, clips go up. And also other short videos that I make, the political party roommate series, a stand-up clip every now and again, just anything else I want to share. And that's generally how I do things. So I think consistency is pretty solid. And what type of show are you wanting to do? Are you wanting to live stream? Are you wanting to do pre-recorded content? Are you wanting to do a little bit of everything? Pre-recorded stuff and live stuff, which is fine. You can totally do. The one cool thing about a YouTube channel or just any, kind of video channel, whether it's on YouTube or Rockfin or whatever else, the one cool thing about it is that you don't have to just do one format of thing. You can do like different stuff if you if you want. So that's pretty cool. At least I think so. So, yeah, consistency is pretty dope. Be consistent. Be consistent. What else would I recommend? I would recommend, this might sound a little cheesy, but so indulge me. I recommend talking about the things you really want to talk about instead of talking about the things that you think maybe you have to talk about. And this is advice I wish I would have given myself a couple years ago, if that makes sense. If I could go back to myself a couple years ago when I started this show, that's advice I would have given myself. When I first started this show, I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to go with it. I had some ideas and I kind of started the show, and it was very, very informal and like kind of visceral and improv-y in a way, because I would just respond to news that people would send me in real time. And it was fun, but it wasn't. I spent a lot of time just kind of doing the electoral politics flavor of the week. Whatever the popular electoralism bicker was, that was what I spent a lot of time talking about. And there's a lot of people who like that stuff, and that's fine. Like, they're allowed to like that stuff. I'm indifferent because I don't watch any of that stuff. So to me, I had no interest in that stuff. And, well, I shouldn't say no interest. No interest is a bit harsh, but I didn't have a lot of interest in that stuff. My interests were elsewhere. But I kind of just did, mostly because of the format of the show, I kind of just followed the electoralism bicker of the week for the most part. And then slowly but surely, I started to really hammer more on the things that I really wanted to talk about that were more interesting to me. Things like net neutrality and municipal broadband. It's very interesting to me that the internet is clearly a utility in our lives, yet it's not treated as such. And we're in a particular moment in history where we can make it such, where we have the power to do something about it. We have a lot to overcome, but we have the power in our own communities to try to make municipal broadband a reality. That's very interesting to me. That's very important to me because, especially, you look at the way the world is evolving around us. Our culture of work, especially here in the United States, is going to change permanently. It already has. It's not going to just go, quote unquote, back to normal. It's not going to do that. So the internet being a utility in our lives is something that is very important to me, that I think is worth talking about, that I like talking about. And truth be told, it's not the sexiest topic in the world. It really isn't. It's not a panty-dropping topic. Crazy, I know. But I started talking about it more. And I noticed at first when I started doing that, my numbers went down. But then something started happening where my numbers stopped going down, and more people who were also really interested in those kind of things and also became interested in those kind of things started to kind of form around the show. Because this show, it has a very, communal element. There's very much a community element to this show. There always has been, and I like it that way. I don't want that to ever change. So it's evolved over the years, and now it's kind of more focused on those types of causes, and that's great because that's what I'm interested in talking about. So I guess to get back to my advice to you or my advice to someone starting a show, talk about the stuff you want to talk about, not the stuff you think you may need to talk about. And even if you think no one cares about this stuff, other people do. You just got to find them. And you'll evolve. You're not going to finish in the exact same place you started. This show's still evolving. I mean, all shows are. And that's a good thing. And as you evolve, some people are going to jump off. Maybe they don't like the direction you take it. Other people will come on board, and that's just part of the process, man. It's like being in a band in a way where it's like every year it's kind of like you're making a new album in a sense. But we don't name the years of the show. What if every show, or what if every year, like, I named the show like an album name? That'd be kind of pointless. Because why would you do that? No one would care anyway. So yeah. Also, another piece of advice is, I would say, always be trying to advance as far as the quality of what you're putting out there. But that being said, you may not need a $12,000 setup to get started. You know what I mean? There are some shows out there where it's just somebody sitting in their living room with nothing but like a bookcase behind them or whatever. And they're just sitting there talking into a webcam with, like, in some cases, they might not even have a microphone, and they have hundreds of thousands of views. Similarly, there's also shows that have very, very high polished tech that also do very well. So there's not a one size fits all thing in that regard, but, just try to have the quality that's appropriate for what you're trying to do. And for me, again, that's also an evolutionary process. When I first started this show, I didn't even have an external mic. I just kind of I think I was using my phone at first, actually. Yeah, I was using my phone at first, and I would just kind of do this thing in real time and respond to people online. And it was just a goofy thing. And now I have a nice external microphone. I actually just upgraded this. And yeah, my next big thing is I want to tweak the lighting. I know that the lighting needs, there's the glare off the screen. There's still some work that needs to be done from a tech standpoint, but yeah, it's a work in progress, and allow it to progress. So, yeah, I would say make sure you got something that's good enough to start out and know that you're always going to be making tweaks and improvements and just kind of let it happen and realize that that's all part of the journey, all part of the ride. So that's another piece of advice I have. Now, as far as let me get back to your tweet here. Is YouTube still the best place for new political content creators to start posting their content? I would say the goal is to post in as many places as possible. I would say you should want to post. And again, that's depending on what you want to do, though. I mean, for some people still just do an audio podcast, and that suits what they're doing. As a This might surprise some of y'all, but as a consumer, I'm more of a podcast guy. I listen mostly just to podcasts. I don't I seldomly watch anything on YouTube for my own consumption. You know what I mean? Like, unless I'm doing it for someone else, like if I'm writing for something or if I'm doing something for my own show. But generally speaking, I never watch anything on YouTube, which that might come as a surprise, but that's just how I've been as a person. Like I've always just kind of been that way. My first love was radio, and it still is. I love radio. And when I say radio, I mean like the concept of radio, just the audible medium. I like that a lot. So I like podcasts a lot better than, video. And I like kind of the podcasting medium a lot better than the YouTube medium. So maybe that's what you're trying to do. And if it is, that's fine. There's nothing wrong. I mean, these days, every podcast usually has a video component just because of where technology is at. And that's fine. But, there's still a lot of podcasts out there where the audio is still the dominant means of distribution. So maybe that's what you're trying to do. Or maybe, if you're trying to do a more video thing, I would say you should try to be on YouTube. You should be on Rockfin. You should be on and utilize the medium to the best of your ability. There might be some shorter segments that you do. Those are great for Twitter. Some shorter video segments, they do great on Twitter. And that's a good way to turn more people on to what you're doing. The first time I ever heard about Richard Medhurst, I saw, just as one example, I saw a short rant that he did. It was about 2 minutes long. And it was just this short rant that he did. And it was very, very well done. And I discovered him through that. And he has his channel where he does long form interviews and stuff like that. And he does, on the ground coverage and stuff like that. But, I discovered him through that Twitter rant. So I would say try to be on as many platforms as possible and just use the platform appropriately. Whenever I stream, as of today, actually, because we've changed some things here. I was just on YouTube and Twitter, and then I would post on Rockfin later. Now I'm on Rockfin, YouTube, and Twitter. So there you go. Let me see if I have anything else as far as advice. Yeah, that's my advice. That's pretty much what I got for you, David. I hope it's helpful. I hope I didn't ramble too much, although I'm sure I did. But yeah, be consistent, be on different platforms, cater the content to what you're trying to do, and make those decisions. Like, are you trying to be more of a podcast, more of a video show, or kind of a little bit of both? I mean, I upload this show as an audio podcast too. So yeah, and good luck. And I guess the only piece of advice I have that's really worth listening to, have fun. Have fun. It should be fun. And because if you're not having fun, the audience isn't either. That goes for stand up, that goes for music, that goes for doing a show, I think that goes for anything. Acting. If you're not having fun, the audience isn't having fun. And by the way, that's not advice that I came up with first. That's advice that's all over the world, but that's been around. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know
article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make